afternoon, Chairperson Quinones Sanchez and fellow members of the committee. I'm Marsha Perelman, and I'm here to testify in support of this amendment. Since serving as acting president and CEO of the Philadelphia Zoo, I've been a member of the boards of the two largest animal welfare organizations in the country, previously serving as the chair of the board of the ASPCA and currently serving on the board of the Humane Society of the United States. I'm also a member of the Pennsylvania Dog Law Advisory Board. Most recently, I joined the board of ACT Philly, and I'm here today to urge each of you to accept this amendment to provide critical funding to ACT, by far Philadelphia's largest open intake shelter and the only shelter in Philadelphia that provides animal control services to the city. As you all know, not long after the most recent budget for ACT was passed in spring of this year, ACT faced a crisis due to the outbreak of a viral respiratory disease. This resulted in ACT being unable to provide the critical community services it normally provides, leaving many Philadelphia citizens with nowhere to turn. Staff worked around the clock for an unsustainable number of hours. The city had to spend tens of thousands of dollars to construct and operate temporary facilities, and many dogs lost their lives. This outbreak of disease was the third such outbreak in several years, though make no mistake, ACT every day makes animals sick. Healthy dogs come into ACT, healthy cats come into ACT, and only a matter of days later, they have pneumonia because of the conditions that currently exist there. But this outbreak was remarkably severe, and it underscored the need to not only improve our facilities for the animals in our care, but for the humans providing that care as well. That crisis is one that ACT is determined to never let happen again. Two recent developments have happened to allow us to make major advances toward that goal. First, we have hired Aurora Velasquez, a highly experienced and well-respected leader in animal sheltering. And second, we have gotten the city's assurance that ACT will finally be able to expand into the much-needed space currently occupied by Vector Services in its building on West Hunting Park Avenue no later than March of 2020. These are two critical steps in starting to significantly improve working conditions for over 80 ACT employees and the health and welfare of the 18,000 animals that ACT takes in each year in compliance with its contract with the City of Philadelphia. Since that outbreak, we have had the benefit of several pro bono consulting arrangements from national shelter experts. Without exception, they advised us to bolster intake prevention programs by reducing the number of animals coming into the shelter. This can be done by providing resources and support to pet owners in emergency situations who wish to retain their animals but are afraid they cannot, and by slowing the growth of the city's unowned or community cat population. Second, they required us to acquire more space in which to perform the services required by ACT, most importantly by providing isolation areas to animals suspected of harboring disease. And finally, they've asked us to significantly enhance the medical services provided to the animals in our care. In order to accomplish these three objectives, we are submitting this request today, which addresses ACT's most urgent needs: funding for intake prevention programs, funding for equipment and technical upgrades so that we can begin to use the Vector space as soon as it becomes available, and funding for additional medical support staff and training. Intake prevention programs play a crucial role in decreasing the risk of disease. One of the causes of the outbreak that ACT experienced last spring was that too many animals were given to ACT for the capacity that ACT had at that point to care for them. Each of the national shelter experts recommended ensuring a continuation of the Philadelphia No-Kill Coalition Community Help Desk, a resource for owners who wish to keep their pets but are being forced by personal circumstances to surrender them. In the first 16 months of operation, this desk realized a 66% success rate by giving families the resources they needed to retain over 2,000 pets that would otherwise have been given to ACT. On an annualized basis, this relatively inexpensive program alone can reduce ACT's intake by almost 10%. Additionally, this amendment would allow ACT to support a much-needed trap, neuter, and return program to address the city's growing population of unowned or community cats. If you live in Philadelphia, you've likely seen stray and community cats throughout our neighborhoods. In 2018, ACT took in over 7,500 such cats, almost 40% of the animals it handled. Performing more trap, neuter, and return services, as strongly recommended by the assessments of veterinary experts at Cornell University and the University of Wisconsin Shelter Medicine Program, will help to decrease the number of cats roaming Philadelphia's streets and entering the shelter in the future. This funding requested today will enable ACT to spay and neuter more than 2,200 cats, which will prevent the births of literally thousands of kittens every year going forward. Further, this amendment would provide equipment and supplies such as isolation cages, which will finally allow for dogs and cats symptomatic of disease to be isolated from the general population. While the optimal use of the vector space will require eventually some capital improvements, in the short term that space can easily be outfitted with the necessary equipment and technology to decrease disease transmission and increase the standard of medical care provided to animals at ACT. Achieving these objectives will reduce the amount of time animals spend there and improve the working environment for all of ACT's employees. Finally, this amendment will allow for the hiring of medical support staff who can take care of many of the medical needs of ACT's animals that can be administered without using the time of a trained veterinarian. When community services are properly supported and provided, and sufficient space is provided to ACT to properly care for the animals brought into it, crises like that which occurred this past summer should not occur. Accepting this amendment, the amount of which comprises well under 1% of the entire amount of the bill that you are considering today, will be monumental in improving conditions at ACT for both the people who work there and the animals who live there for years to come. Thank you very much for your time.